The first New York City community garden was started in 1973 by a Lower East Side artist named Liz Christie and a band of her friends. They called themselves the Green Gorillas and started out by cleaning up a vacant lot on the corner of Bowery and Houston. The Children's Magical Garden followed Christie's model. In 1982, a group of community activists converted an abandoned lot, filled with hypodermic needles and broken glass, into a place for children to play and learn. Many other nonprofits have been formed since the Green Gorillas that are committed to spreading and preserving green spaces and community gardens in New York City. Time's Up NYC is one of these organizations. They are committed to environmental issues all across New York City, and they provide the Children's Magical Garden with much-needed volunteers.
Time's Up got started 25 years ago. We started out small, and over the years we've added more campaigns, and community gardens has been in our agenda for many years, probably since the beginning. So, and that's where we are.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, we're doing it for the children. We're doing it for the children.
In many ways, the Children's Magical Garden is a microcosm of the larger community garden movement in New York City. The end of Robert Moses' 26-year reign as Parks Commissioner brought a new kind of community involvement in the parks, one where communities actually had a say. Thomas Hoving, Moses' successor, introduced policies to turn vacant lots into usable public space, and with the economic crisis of the 1970s, the community garden movement really took off.
Well, when I first moved into the city, 15 years ago, there was a huge battle over the community gardens. I think this real estate was becoming hot property, right? But 15 years earlier, in the fiscal crisis in the mid-70s, 20 years earlier, this had been a rubble heap, right? And people really had the idea we can remake our urban spaces as green spaces. And literally over the 20 years from the mid-70s to the mid-90s, community gardeners had made their own Central Park, their own green spaces all around the city. It's this great image of an ecological future for us.
There are currently over 500 community gardens throughout New York City, compared to the over 800 that existed in the late 1990s. Of the current 500 gardens, about 300 are controlled by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. 118 are owned by land trusts, and at least 36 are privately owned. If the park is city-owned, the community must submit a proposal and ask for a licensing agreement detailing the parameters of use. If the lot is privately owned, the community must request a written permission to use the lot. This letter, however, is not legally binding. There is no security for such community garden sites. They can be bulldozed and developed at any time without notice. As of 2002, 38 gardens were claimed by developers. Although some gardens have been lost, the fight for permanence is ongoing.
It's not in danger right now, but the city has periodically said that they want to take over the land to make a building here.
Half of the garden is owned by the developer and half of it is public space. And one day the developer showed up and tried to put a fence along the middle of the garden. And Susan Howard and Bill Time's Up and some people from Time's Up and the Children's Magical Garden supporters tore down most of the fence and decided to keep the one part of the fence that the developer put up for the kids to use as a swing. So thank you, developer, for this little part of this.
We don't have much greenery in this neighborhood. We don't have Center Park or Bryant Park or any park. And this is a special park because it's actually a children's magical garden, so it's for kids. And so it's really important for the neighborhood to have green space and a place where kids can come and be safe and have a good time.
In 2007, the City of New York released Plan YC, a project undertaken by Mayor Michael Bloomberg. The plan includes wide-reaching goals for almost every aspect of life in New York City, including a chapter on parks and public spaces. There are only 2 small mentions of community gardens in Plan YC, both of which are vague and non-specific.
I think that Bloomberg's plans for Plan NYC it's very much like AstroTurf. It looks green if you stand far away from it, but if you get close to it and you really look at the details, it's plastic. It's fake. Okay? Bloomberg could make the city a very green city by making the gardens permanent in perpetuity. Permanent public green space. You could increase green space in the city. That's not happening. These gardens are being whittled away garden by garden. And the garden agreement from 2010 the chief will work very hard to get the city to improve. Does not really give any real preservation for permanence of community gardens.
In 1998, Mayor Giuliani classified all community gardens as up for development. This statement caused grassroots organizations to file many lawsuits against the city. In 2002, to solve this issue, then Attorney General Eliot Spitzer and Mayor Michael Bloomberg signed a memorandum agreement known as the Community Gardens Agreement. This act called for the preservation of 198 gardens in New York City. In 2010, Spitzer's law expired. Parks Department Commissioner Adrian Bennett proposed new legislation known as the Garden Act of 2010. This new legislation didn't have the same level of protection as Spitzer's law. The New York City Community Garden Coalition, among other groups, felt that they were being left unprotected and vulnerable. They wanted to be granted permanence. They wanted to bridge the gap between city parks and community gardens.
What do we want?
They went in on these empty lots where the buildings crumbled, removed the debris, and made community gardens. Brick by brick, seed by seed, my community built a community for its residents that included permanent open space.
So Bloomberg, there's a term called greenwashing, right? Which is talking a good game green for your advertisers, and it sounds good. But when it comes to actually telling developers, no, you can't touch this green space because it reduces asthma and it helps build community cohesiveness. It's good for kids. It's good for the urban environment. And developer, you can't get your paws on this space. No, you won't do that.
PlanYC is a set of goals measured by certain milestones. These milestones include planting 1 million trees in the city and opening new parks. PlanYC does not involve legislation to protect the already existing community gardens.
Million Trees NYC is an initiative to plant and care for 1 million trees across the city's 5 boroughs to keep the city healthy and strong for generations to come.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, weighing in at 300 pounds, standing 12 feet tall, with a record good for the environment, wearing the brown trunk. Please put your hands together for Carolina Silverbell, tree number 1.
We propose that PlanYC include legislation specifically to protect and encourage growth of publicly owned community gardens. These gardens should be for the people, owned by the people. Let communities organize gardens and grow their own food on their own land, specifically for the purpose of gardening.
This is a safe place for kids to hang out, right? I mean, my kids have been gardening in this garden since they were little girls. And I don't have a garden. I live on a 4th floor walk-up. So they've been gardening in this garden since they were little kids, and we've had so many fun days. I mean, the garden is one of the few places where if you don't want to get a pint of beer, you know, like you can come here, right? If you don't want to get a coffee, Starbucks excludes, pub excludes. You have intergenerational conversations between the elders and the young people, right? I mean, everybody's welcome in a garden. And there are not a lot of other spaces like that in New York City.
Kids in areas like the Lower East Side need a place to go that isn't their schoolyard, or a lot blanketed by astroturf. Kids need some place where they can dig their hands into the dirt.